Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am Frank, your congressman, the third most popular candidate to ever be your hero. Along with me always,
What's up, planet Earth? I'm Bean.
the Bean.
Yep.
If we sound extra sultry today, it's because we have spent an evening sipping whiskeys like true gentlemen. My voice does sound like, I do feel I don't know what it is about whiskey, but it definitely does something to your throat, you know? Like, you always see those people talk like this, and you go, that person drank a lot of whiskey and smoked a lot of cigarettes, you know? And, like, cigarettes I get, but I wonder what the whiskey part is.
Feels like I've been sipping syrup.
Oh, yeah? I don't know. My throat's not sore. It's just, I don't know. I definitely snore. I don't know about whiskey that makes me snore more than, like, beer or vodka or something else, but I definitely snore more with whiskey. Are you guilty of the same?
I'm just a general snorer when I'm drunk.
Yeah, no, I'm that too. Yeah. Man, we were greeted with the devastating damnation of whatever. There's these repent sinner type people out there that were aggressively yelling at everyone, which is odd. Someone talking about finding Jesus and was he calling her a whore? What was he calling her?
Well, he said that he wasn't throwing stones, but that the gentleman's balls were cut off by her.
Yeah, but what did he call her? He called her, it wasn't a whore, right? No, it's some other word that I think meant whore. Yeah, one of those like biblical words that basically means, I forget now. But yeah, he was yelling all sorts of hateful stuff and saying we were the problem. Which I started thinking, I'm like, what if this is like a clever like psyop by the Church of Satan or something, where it's like, look, we could go out there and say, come join the Church of Satan, but that won't work well. So how about this? We dress up as Christians and we just yell hateful things at them, at everybody. Then they go, man, I don't want to be with those people. Look how mean they are. Go for the gentle embrace for the Church of Satan, I guess.
The guy who was checking IDs was like, he's just mad he didn't get a ticket.
Yeah, maybe. He was very angry, which I've never seen that tactic. I've seen the preaching fire and brimstone and, repent and all that kind of stuff, but never like hurling insults at people personally, other than saying like, maybe you're a sinner or something like that. But that's the first, like, I don't know, berate people into finding Christ or something. I don't even know. I don't even know what the message was. I'm not even sure why we were, like, I guess because of whiskey we were sinners?
For trying whiskey?
That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, it's not like it was an LGBTQIA2LS plus kind of thing. It was literally just a whiskey tasting thing, and
It wasn't a death metal concert either.
yeah, exactly. Like, it had to have been. And like one of the guys, I heard somebody like kind of arguing with one of the guys. It's like, but didn't Jesus turn water into wine? It's like, right, that's wine. So it's like, okay, so whiskey. I don't know what makes it a sin. I get it. Like, Mormons don't do the drinking, and like some Baptists in the South really poo-poo it. But I don't know anywhere. Oh, hell, I don't know. I've never read the Bible, so. But I don't know it to be a sin. I don't think it is. I mean, Rachel's aunt said that something in the Bible says something about tattoos being okay. I don't know. She's read it. I haven't. I believe her. I don't care. Whatever.
Jews don't think so.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Can't be buried in a Jewish cemetery if you have a tattoo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Did you ever see that movie with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy? It just came out on Netflix.
Yeah.
That was good. His mom's berating him about the tattoos. Julia Louise Dreyfus. And like, you can't be buried with your family. He's like, I'm counting on it. He's like, I don't care. I'll be dead. I don't care. Bury me anyway. Yeah, so that's how I learned that lesson. All right. So I think the general theme this week is try not to freak out Bean too much. Everything's going to hell, basically, is what's coming.
Please stop freaking me out.
So, I've been saying, I don't even remember if I've said it on here, but I've been saying for a little bit that I think in about 4 years-ish, we'll be at a very low point for the real estate market. And then that will, of course, have other problems that have occurred to get there. Probably in banking and all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. Everyone complains about housing prices. I mean, remember that 2008 wasn't a cakewalk, but it did adjust housing prices down. I know my house that I had just purchased a couple years prior lost half its value. And I was just like, well, good thing I'm not looking to sell anytime soon. And just a short 10 years later, I was able to sell it for like $10,000 more than I bought it for.
Oh, man.
Yeah, not great, but at least I didn't lose my shirt, you know. Some people had to sell. And one of the fun things is cross-collateralization. And so when things start to go bad, one domino can... And so that's... I'm hoping when this crash occurs, which maybe I'm rooting for a little bit, but that's okay. You know, there's a lot of corporate ownership of houses now, and they ended the ride up the bubble, the residential bubble there, by, you know, they were paying $20,000 over asking, like 20% over asking. I mean, they're just whatever, because their plan was like, we're going to hold this as a long-term asset that we're going to rent out to people. When things crash and people lose their homes and have to rent one, they're like, we'll still own it. We'll own everything. And you'll own nothing. And you'll like it.
So that's why BlackRock's in on that, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think about, like, I mean, if we want to go full thing with it, with a great reset, you'll own nothing and you'll like it. And then all of a sudden, like, I mean, somebody like a BlackRock, like a Vanguard, like any of these people big enough to go party at Davos, or they're just like, yeah, no, we do think we should sell subscription housing, you know, because especially if things get tough and you go, like I've lost everything, you know. How about we rent you a furnished apartment or furnished house, and it comes with internet and power and all this, like one flat fee, you know, $2,500 a month. You go, you know, that's not really all that bad. I'm like, oh, all right, 25, that's not bad. And then you just go, oh, well, I could move, but this is so affordable, you know?
And easy.
And easy. Yep. Give me convenience or give me death. But people that aren't BlackRock and aren't Vanguard, but the kind of smaller players in this, I'm kind of hoping that they have stretched themselves very thin financially, that they're hoping to refinance before the bubble, you know, the payment and, you know, the jacking of the rate and all that kind of stuff. What do they call that? Is that the bubble? What is it called? The bubble payment? The bubble, you know, with a variable rate mortgage, when it goes from like, you get an intro at 0%, and then at some point it jumps up to like 13%, and you owe like...
Balloon?
Balloon, yeah. No, balloon payment, yeah. But it's like, all right, you know, and this in 6 years from now, you know, you owe us like $50,000, and the rate's going to go up to 9% if you don't refinance. You go, I'll refinance. But I'm hoping a lot of people have been playing that game, and then when they go to refinance, and they go, what's this 7% nonsense? What's this 8% nonsense? Like, I can't afford those payments, you know. I went from 0%. I've got some of it rented out, you know, so I can do it. But, like, suddenly my mortgage has gone up tremendously. And what the deals that I signed when I thought I could refinance low, now this doesn't pay for those deals. And so I'm hoping you see a flood of houses in addition to the commercial real estate just hit the market. Things will crash. It'll suck for people trying to like downsize to retire or move. But I have a feeling that there's a lot of people that took advantage of this high that we had in the market. And, you know, if you missed it, you missed it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't try to sell. I've only lived here for 5-6 years or whatever. But you start looking at value, you go, well, that's twice what I paid for it. Like, what if I did sell? And they go, well, I could buy basically this same house. So I'm not upgrading. I'm just spending more on the exact same house because the values are so high. So anyway, I think net it will hurt corporate buyers more than Joe Everyman, you know, because worst case scenario is like, so you just stay in your home longer, you know. But if you're a renter and looking to be a first time home buyer, suddenly you got access again. Suddenly you can get a house for $200,000, maybe $175,000, which anybody that's listening to this outside of Florida, that's insane here. Like, good luck. In St. Pete, 150 grand means you are in a bad neighborhood with a house that's falling apart, you know? Yeah. So, from Bloomberg, we have the headline is a $560 billion property warning hits banks from New York to Tokyo. I had to scroll. I have a weird perspective screen here.
Hyundai Santa Cruz versus
Shut up,
Ford
Hyundai
Maverick.
Santa Cruz.
Look what Santa Cruz
Yahoo
has.
Finance. This happened on my phone when I was reading. Let's make sure these speakers are muted, sons of bitches. Or you can just turn them off back there, whatever. Well, let's make sure it's muted because I think it'll end up being recorded. Yeah, I was reading this on my phone. And all of a sudden, I started hearing voices about Hyundai Santa Cruz or whatever. And I'm like, really? Like, even on the mobile browser, you're going to autoplay an ad that I can't even see? All right.
Remember.
Yeah, just go to the speaker and then choose headphones or whatever we have it in there as. Just down in the system tray. But anyway, so this thing is talking about how, especially office buildings, there is a lot of office towers that are reaching the point of needing to be refinanced. Here, I'm going to steal things real quick. All right, so New York Community Bank Corp decision to slash its dividends and stockpile reserves sent its stock down a record 38%, with the fallout dragging the shares 23-year low. Let's see. So the concern reflects the ongoing slide in commercial property values, coupled with the difficulty predicting which loans might unravel. Setting the stage is a pandemic-induced shift to remote work and a rapid run-up in interest rates, which have made it more expensive for strained borrowers to refinance. Billionaire fella warned that the office market is headed for more than a $1 trillion loss. So office real estate in general, this dude's like, it's going to lose $1 trillion soon. $1 trillion. It's a little bit. But the way this spins out, this article talks about, is you have different lenders, right? So you have like the cabal of the Federal Reserve type people, you know, the JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, the Big Five or whatever. Goldman Sachs, the too big to fail ones, and they're all, you have to, like, if you've never looked into the Federal Reserve at all, I mean, you have to. First of all, it's not federal. It's not a government bank. It's literally a cabal of the biggest banks setting monetary policy for the United States, even though they are just a bunch of corporate banks deciding, like, I don't know how that works. So we're like, we don't need to be in charge of our money. Let's just let the banks decide how much money to print and when and what the interest rate. Like, don't get me wrong. A bank should set the interest rate, right? But this one massive bank? And like, say you set up a massive bank. Say JP Morgan Chase is just huge and other banks borrow from them. Then they set an interest rate. The other banks will mark it up. That's just business, But to have this, like, federally protected monopoly on being the top lender and, like, having shadowy policies that you don't have to tell people about, and then they keep changing them. There used to be, it's called the discount window, and if the banks were borrowing from the discount, I think it's called the discount. Is that what it's called? Anyway, they're borrowing from this window to cover overnight transfers, because money out, money in every night. And so it used to be very shameful. Like, if your bank was shown borrowing from the discount window too much, it was just like, you are probably not going to make it. Like, this isn't good. But now, they just all do it. Everybody does it. And so the shame's gone. People are like, look, we're just playing wild and loose. We'll just do whatever. And then if something happens, federal government will bail us out. Anyway, so with this, though, small and medium-sized banks that have lent towards mortgages, right? Or just, loans towards acquiring office spaces, commercial real estate. Say you own one big tower, like downtown. It's like, all right, you're going to have to default. No one wants to rent there. There's nothing doing. You're going to file bankruptcy or whatever. You're going to default. And then maybe a second customer is going to default on a shopping center, and like suddenly you get this regional bank, this medium-sized bank, and they go, hey, we can't actually absorb that many loans defaulting. Like, after X number of loans defaulting, we default. And so that's looking like what might happen here is in addition to just some commercial property owners, and especially office space owners, them defaulting on stuff, it's going to tumble down and shut down banks. And so banks are going to fail. Small and medium-sized banks are going to fail. Of course, what ends up happening with that is for more consolidation. So the big boys, the Bank of America, the two bigs to fail, they're going to buy up these assets at a horrible discount, and if it's anything like what happened with, what was it called? Silicon Valley Bank. I'm pretty sure JP Morgan Chase got to buy up all the assets and the federal government took all the liabilities. And that's a hell of a deal if you can get it. I mean, it's not surprising that old Jamie Dimon shows up so much at so many government things. He seems well ingratiated with the powers that be. And he got a good deal. I mean, I'd love to buy only the assets for companies and not have to take any liabilities. That sounds great. And probably that's what we'll see. Well, as these things fail and crash, the federal government will step in and go, oh, we have to protect, the normal depositor. They can't lose their savings, even though FDIC insures everything, $250,000. They'll go, oh, well, we'll have to step in, so we'll absorb the bad paper and, let Bank of America and whoever buy up all the assets,
and get bigger.
And get bigger. And if you remember, too, after 2008, or when was it? I don't know. After 2008, they did some policies that were supposed to, stop this from ever happening again. We're going to new regulations. We're going to save the people.
Was it the Dodd-Frank?
I'm trying to remember Dodd-Frank. I can't remember if Dodd-Frank was before 2008 and helped cause the crisis. I'm just blanking on the timeline.
I think the Dodd-Frank was the goal was to limit them on selling low quality mortgages.
Right.
But they found a way around it.
Well, yeah, I think Dodd-Frank is what led to the packaging of mortgages as securities, the mortgage-backed security.
Yeah.
I think Dodd-Frank was it was regulations that tried to do something. Oh, it helped back loans. Basically, the federal government started backing bad loans, because even George W. Bush, the goal is home ownership. That's the American dream. And so everybody should buy a house. We can keep the interest rates at 0%, and everyone should buy a house. And it's all right, people this loan is crap. It's well, this loan's crap, too. It's well, put it all together. We got a giant crap sandwich. Now it's worth something. And I'm what if it defaults? It's the federal government backs it. What could happen? Nothing bad could ever happen. But there was further regulation. After that, that was designed to prevent this sort of disaster again, prevent the too big to fail thing. But what it actually created was bigger banks, more consolidation. And I think we're going to see even more of that coming. Let me see if there's anything else that was in here.
I just don't know why a single entity has to determine the interest rate. Why can't it just be organic based on all the banks and offerings, and you have an Amazon bank come in and lowball to try and steal everyone's business?
Sure.
And so in turn, everyone kind of follows it down or follows it up, depending on.
You're talking about the free market setting the rates?
Just seeing something obvious.
That's a crazy idea, Charlie. Free market will never work. What a crazy. We need a central bank that controls all the money and makes all the decisions on how we borrow and spend. Okay?
Okay.
If the free market set it up, where's the cabal? That's stupid.
Hey, look, a cliff. Let's all walk off it.
Hey, listen. Sometimes you need to set up a little organized crime to handle your stuff. We can call the Federal Reserve. We can call it government. I don't know.
Nice national racket.
Yeah. Just be a shame if somebody came and wrecked your business, Charlie. Picture a cat on a counter. So here's something. It says banks are facing roughly $560 billion in commercial real estate maturities by the end of 2025. So $500 billion in loans are maturing by the end of 2025, which represents more than half of total property debt coming due over that period. I'd say regional lenders in particular are more exposed to the industry and stand to be hit harder than their larger peers because they lack credit card portfolios. So a lot of the bigger banks, they subsidize their losses with the credit cards because we all got them, and the interest rates on those are like 30% or whatever now. And my mom stands by that. That's what bailed out the recession, like in the 80s or whatever. As banks were like, let's try issuing some credit cards at like high rates. We don't have to be competitive. They're credit cards, and everyone's like, I love credit cards. And so it's just like print the money, you know. But these smaller cats don't have credit card, which, by the way, I want to figure out how to issue a credit card. That's what I want to do.
So you want to become your own bank?
I don't know. Like, seems like people do it.
You just need enough you need enough equity, that's all.
It's like I was looking at one of those things like the richest people in each state, and there's that one guy in Montana or Wyoming or something like that. And literally, he just started up a bank, but really all they do is credit cards. It's one of those cheapies that they send it out to literally everyone. We're like, hey, you've already been approved. Apply. One of those sorts of things. And you go, oh, okay, well, this is Bank of Nevada or whatever the hell it's called, But he's made like $1 trillion doing it. Like, I want to get in on the action. I want to be in the cabal.
I mean, maybe you couldn't just have one of the big guys be your backer.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know. Let's do this. Let's start a credit card company. Take advantage of people. Let's see if there's anything else of interest in here. Yeah, Silicon Valley. Okay, commercial real estate loans account for 28.7% of assets at small banks compared to just 6.5% at bigger lenders, according to J.P. Morgan Chase & Co. So, yeah,
because they usually get better deals, right?
Well, it's just a bigger bank has, like the credit cards, they have auto loans, they have all this stuff. And so, if you take a regional bank that's got, 1 to 5 branches or something, then they have just fewer assets, And commercial's always been steady. It's always been like, everyone's always going to need office space, Everyone's going to always need a grocery store. It's just good. It's good, safe bets. And now it's looking not so safe. So that's...
I've seen a lot more for lease on commercial properties lately. And so I'm just waiting for that to turn into for sale.
Yes. Yes. And I think that'll come as those for lease signs stay up longer. Yeah, let's see. The Aon Center, the third tallest office tower in Los Angeles, recently sold for $147 million, which is about 45% less than it was purchased in 2014. Somebody bought an office tower at a 50% discount. I mean, essentially. But like all these banks... So all these banks with loans coming to maturity in 2025, and there's going to be a percentage of them that's probably not insignificant that will not come to maturity. That will be written off as bad. And that will go from there. And this is where, let's see, hold on. There's another thing, the multifamily housing, which is what I want. Let's see. While offices are a particular area for concern for real estate investors, the company's largest real estate exposure comes from multifamily buildings, with a bank carrying about $37 billion in apartment loans. Nearly half of those loans are backed by rent-regulated buildings, making them vulnerable to New York State regulations passed in 2019. So basically, there's, like rent control in New York and all that kind of stuff. And so you got like... what did they say, half? So, $18.5 billion in apartment building loans. And the revenue to pay that loan is somewhat dictated by lawmakers in New York. And it's funny, like, people... Our hero so far, until he shows otherwise, Argentinian President Javier Milei, he eliminated all the... all the rent control stuff in Argentina, just outlawed it or eliminated the regulation. And immediately what happened was more properties were available for rent at a cheaper price. Like immediately. Because what happened was when the rent controls went in, surprise, surprise, people either sold their property because they're just like, look, I can't get what I need, so I'm going to sell it, get out. Other people just held it and used it for Airbnb vacation rentals. They go, listen, there's no rent controls on Airbnb, so I'll just do that. I'll hold on to it. And so the inventory of available rental properties was very squished down, making the price of the available ones higher, supply, demand. And so, rent controls created a worse problem than what they were supposed to be solving. It's like, oh, this will keep prices low. It's like, well, it made prices high and options low. And so, like, almost immediately, these people that were just squashing down their stuff, being like, Airbnb, they're just like, oh, for rent. And people go, yay! It's like, it's cheaper. Like, yay! So, rent control is nonsense. And it always, 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 in America, leads to the same thing, which is the building becomes crappy because you can't, at the rent control prices, you can't afford proper maintenance. So you just ignore it, become a slumlord, and eventually, once it's got a total crud, looks like crap, you sell it to a developer who's going to tear it down and build a luxury condo. And like that's happened like all of the times, And so if you love things like gentrification and like displacing people, like rent control is a good first step for that. But anyway, yeah, so like there's a huge chunk of loans here that, they don't even have full control over the pricing on it to like pay these loans, So this will be a domino. When this hits, when 2008 hit, the Pinellas County property prices didn't bottom out till 2013. So 2008 was the badness, but it tumbled all the way till 2013 before it bottomed out. So in 2023, we already bailed out banks to a greater degree than we did in all of 2008, which was like the worst ever. But we pass that by with a yawn, and so that's already begun. And so soon we're going to have, and like interest rates are up, obviously. They keep talking about how the Fed's expected to lower interest rates this year. I'm willing to make a bet right now that doesn't happen because they never said they were going to. They use language. They basically use language that were saying, oh, it's on the table. Or we're open to it. We're hoping. It's like we're hoping to lower interest rates this year. It's like, okay, cool. It's like, oh, they plan on lowering. It's like, nah, they said they hope. They said maybe. They said maybe, I hope. But that's not a plan. That's just words. And that's because of how crazy, how much control the Fed has over like the stock market. That sentences like that go, okay, the stock market's going to have a strong day or week or whatever. Just because of this one sentence, oh, we're expected to lower interest rates. People, oh, that's great. Let's invest money, But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think interest rates are dropping at all. And I think we're going to have some fun. I think, the real estate's going to start to crash and that'll tumble into other stuff. I think some people who've gotten into that game just as like a retail investor, you might call it, just a normal guy getting into it. If that person doesn't have his ducks in a row, his or her ducks, like that person's going to go bankrupt, more houses, all that kind of stuff. People are going to lose jobs because some companies are going to go out of business along the way. And then from there, those people are out of job. Now they can't pay their bill. Tumble. So I think it could be overall worse than 2008. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll, because of the focus, because it'll be more so commercial real estate this time. Maybe most of us don't notice it, don't feel it. Maybe it's just sort of the big boys that feel it. I don't know. But I always say one should be prepared, That dog is just crying out there. Just crying. All right. So, in addition to the joys of our real estate market, there's some good news out there. Gold demand hits record highs in 2023 amid geopolitical risks, China weakness. So, the key points from CNBC. Gold demand hits record high in 2023 on the back of persistent geopolitical tensions and the continued weakness in the Chinese economy, the World Gold Council said. Total gold demand stood at basically up from 2022 by 150 tons, which is a lot of gold. 50 tons is a lot of gold. Well, with that. This is inclusive of over-the-counter transactions and stock flows. Gold purchases from central banks led to last year's surge, with purchasing exceeding 1,000 tons for 2 consecutive years. You know what I'm betting? You know which central bank I bet doesn't do that? I bet the Federal Reserve does like 0 in gold or close to it. Like the Chinese central bank, they've been buying gold consistently. And like I don't think the U.S. has been doing that at all. And I don't believe that Fort Knox has 1 gold coin in it. I think Fort Knox is empty.
Well, yeah. So, like, so the gold demand, are they just measuring the ebbs and flows of transactions? Is that so? The demand of transactions is up.
Yeah. So basically, like more tons of gold were exchanged in 2023. Sense. Yeah, and that's the over the counter purchases mean like buying physical gold, and then stocks mean when you buy gold in the stock market, obviously. But like. Let's see. The biggest drivers of gold demand in 2023 were the Russia-Ukraine war and Israel-Hamas conflict, as well as a slowdown in China's economy. And these could continue boosting the metal price as well into 2024, said this person at the central bank at WGC. What the hell is WGC? Oh, World Gold Council. I don't know. I want to be part of the World Gold
Council. That's what I'm saying. They just make up these these groups.
It's like I'm part of the World Platinum Council. How about that? Send me your platinum. All right, yeah. So all-time highs and prices, but basically there's People's Bank of China was the biggest buyer of gold at 225 tons last year, bumping its stock to 2,235 tons. I am willing to bet that the Federal Reserve bought 0 tons, and the U.S. government probably bought 0 tons, and that we probably stole everyone's gold. I think everyone's gold that was in Fort Knox we spent and used. And that's why when like Germany asked for their gold back a few years ago, we're like, no problem, we'll give you all your gold back. It's going to take us 8 years. It's like 8 years? Like to ship gold across the ocean? Like, let's just send it to them. Like, yeah, 8 years. I think we just did a bunch of IOUs because we're like, all right, we're going to sell it to get some cash now, but it's still yours. Like in the bank, you put your money in here. Well, we invest some of your money. We loan out some of your money. It's still your money on paper. We just don't have your money. And I think we did that with all the gold too. It's like, oh yeah, we got you. We just don't have it, And anyway, but here, like, let's see. So China Evergrande, once among the country's largest property developers, was ordered by a Hong Kong court to liquidate after the company failed to reach an 11th hour deal over the weekend to restructure. They were huge. Like, this was a massive Chinese real estate company that has been looming on bankruptcy for a long time and is it's a giant hit to the Chinese economy. There's going to be a lot of buildings there that are, I don't know, up for grabs. I don't know what they're going to do. Probably the government's going to grab them or something, or an entity that's formed and backed by the government. Chinese investors are worried about the future of other asset classes, and they're turning to gold as a way to protect their investment portfolios. Gold has actually done very well in renminbi terms. What the hell does that mean? And very well compared to other assets. All right, what do we want to guess? What do you think renminbi means?
It's not even capitalized, so I don't know. Like renminbi terms. Is it a business term? I've never even heard of that. Renminbi.
Is that remindy?
Did they just spell something wrong?
I don't know. renminbi. I'm having trouble even spelling it to look it up. Let's see what this thing means. Oh. It's the people's currency.
They don't capitalize it?
I guess not.
Huh.
Yeah, the official currency of the People's Republic of China. Really? Wasn't it like the yuan or something? Oh. Oh, I see. The one unit of renminbi is yuan.
Okay.
So it's in yuans, but it's renminbi.
So they just have an abbreviated version of it that doesn't relate to the word at all?
The yuan is the basic unit of the renminbi, but the word is also used to refer to the Chinese currency generally, especially in international context.
Okay.
All right. So Chinese currency. Yeah, a lot of gold jewelry being purchased too, but they say that's from weddings, which, whatever, fine. But yeah, so historically speaking, when the U.S. dollar is bad, people turn to gold, right? And it's not shocking that when the Chinese dollar is bad, that China's turning to gold. So it's always, it's the safe haven asset. Gold has never been worth nothing, and so, it's good to have a little gold. It's a good safety kind of thing. But it's never a good sign when one of the world's largest economies is turning to gold. That's them saying they don't, they manipulate their dollar anyway. Like everything's fake. Not that we don't, but they do it even more so, I guess. It's hard to be too critical of some of these people when you start looking at yourself too. You go, oh, they do this. Like, I mean, we kind of do that too. Well, we do it different, so it's nicer. Anyway, but when China's buying up a bunch of gold, being like, all right, our dollar's about to be worth blubkiss, and then the U.S., their dollar, we're facing inflation like crazy here, which is our dollar becoming worth less. And then interest rates are up, and it's like everybody's going to gold. Makes you think everyone's preparing for bad times. I mean, it's always responsible to have some gold, but when everybody starts buying it up, you do think something's ahead. Something's ahead. But luckily, there's nothing, geopolitical things. I think we'll get some stability soon. I think things are going to get real stable. Hey, speaking of that, after new U.S. strikes hitting Yemen, Iran issues a warning about suspected spy ships in the Mideast. Stability is coming. Look at this ad. A teaspoon of empty stomach burns pounds of fat extremely fast. There's all these ads nowadays that look borderline pornographic. Especially, what's that Amazon knockoff? Temu. All their ads. You go what the hell do you have on my screen? I'm at work, people. And you go, I guess you're selling a dress. I mean, a hooker dress. But, they're advertising hooker dresses and hooker heels and stuff like that. And you're just what the fuck? It's good clickbait, I'm sure. I'm sure a bunch of guys go, what's this? They go, oh, that's a hell of a deal on a shovel. You just say. All right. So, as you are aware, there is a bit of a conflict over in the Middle East. Israel, I don't even know how, I guess calling it it's difficult to define what is happening at the moment. Because, all right, Israel and Palestine, right? So, obviously, October 7th, Hamas attacked, and it was a brutal attack. And it was not okay what they did. And we said right here on the show, hell's about to just rain down on those poor people. Not poor people Hamas, but all the other people. And hell has, in fact, rained down on them. And, I don't see too many reports of, combat. You don't see a lot of things. Oh, in this battle of whatever the hell, Israelis lost this many soldiers and Palestinians lost this many soldiers. It's just basically Gaza being turned into just a parking lot. just rubble everywhere. And I don't know what you define that as. You know, Israel says it's a war. You know, it's a war against Hamas. Got to track down every member of Hamas and kill them. And, you know, if they hadn't hidden weapons and military stuff in civilian places, and they wouldn't have to attack and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that that is incorrect. I mean, Hamas definitely hides military stuff in residential areas for that purpose. But I'd say Israel has definitely responded strongly.
That's a safe way to say it.
Yeah. I think they did not hold back. They were not looking for, was it a proportionate response? They definitely went to 11. Most responses go to 10. Theirs goes to 11. Anyway, that has caused other tensions because ends up Israel doesn't have a lot of friends in the Middle East. Iran's not a big fan, believe it or not. And so, you know, there's all this, people are supporting Israel with words or not supporting them with words. But there's some groups like the Houthis that have been attacking, and they've been not just attacking towards Israel, but they've been attacking ships in the Red Sea, U.S. ships, both commercial and military, or attempting to. And then there was, of course, recently that airstrike in Jordan, like the Jordan border or something like that, that killed 3 U.S. service members. So it's like, oh, okay. So now we have U.S. service member deaths, and they were taken out by, you know, Iranian-made weapons. And, you know, the Houthis are doing a lot of it. This one actually was the IRGC, right? Is it GC or CG? I always screw up the last two. But the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, they took credit for the strike that killed the U.S. service members, you know? And so they're not part of Iran's government, not part of their military, but also kind of part of their military, kind of a terrorist group, kind of a state actor, kind of, you know, it's weird thing. And so the Houthis are using Iranian-made devices to attack, and we're, you know, shooting those down as best we can and responding. But, you know, after the strike on the U.S. troops, which one might say, well, do we need to have U.S. troops in Syria and Jordan and Iraq? Because, like, a drone couldn't have hit us if we weren't there. And, like, you know, I get that in a global dominance sort of game. Yeah, you want to have bases all over because you want to make it easy to conquer everybody. You know, you go to war, the more bases you have, the more dominant you can be. But maybe we shouldn't be trying to be globally dominant, you know? Like, we can be the dominant force by having the biggest, baddest military, all right? So we got, you know, big, especially Navy, you know, like to protect the different maritime routes and stuff like that. You know, so you can be the biggest, baddest guy that no one wants to mess with. We can be globally dominant in that our economy is so strong that everybody wants to be a partner with us, and like what we do influences other people. Okay. I don't think we need to be like Alexander the Great, Napoleon sort of try to be dominant. We don't need to conquer the world. I think most people would prefer if we didn't conquer the world, both domestically and abroad. It's nice having Italy be Italy, and I don't know, Poland to be Poland, and Ukraine be corrupt. But
well, it's 2024. Do we need boots in all areas when we have satellites monitoring every country there is?
And don't forget about hypersonic missiles. You know, like that's something we're all worried about China having them, but we probably got them too. And it's just like, if you can launch a missile from Omaha and hit Beijing, like, do we really need to have an Air Force base in Jordan or something? And it's like, because what do we need planes for? which, I mean, yeah, we'll have planes or whatever, but it is like as technology changes, it does seem to make a better case for not needing as many bases all over the place. And I really think that, like, you know, old Salty Jimmy, like he thinks that instead of having like a Navy as part of a Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense type thing, yeah, I guess DOD. But instead of having that kind of thing, that he's like, he thinks there needs to be a Department of Maritime Security. And so basically it's just like we have a number of U.S. vessels that go to enact in commerce in these different countries. And then like in the Red Sea, not a great place to be right now. And, you know, different, oh shoot, I just blanked on some of the different straits. But, you know, there's different choke points, you know, where we go past nations on one side of the choke point that maybe aren't that friendly to us. And sometimes there's pirates, and sometimes, you know, there's state-sponsored pirates. And so, you know, to protect our ships, you probably need some security out there, because I don't think it's colonial, you know, to say like, well, yeah, we got people out there protecting our interest, you know, like if we start boarding other ships and not letting their ships go by, like that's a problem, you know, or, you know, if we start bullying in the waters, then that's not cool. But having our ships around to make sure that ships are protected and can enact commerce, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Even on the libertarian side of things, you might say, well, it doesn't need to be government, it should be private defense. Okay, fine. Like, I agree. Yeah. I've got no problem with that. And that's even when you look at the like the merchant marines type things. Like a lot of that's just commerce, that they've got a lot of ships and they can deploy to help in times of war, where all of a sudden you have these commercial vessels and blah, 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 blah. So I'm fine with it not being a government institution doing it, but as long as we have it, as long as the government's going to have a sea fleet, you know, it does tend to make sense. And then, like, I don't think you need as many bases if you have carrier groups and stuff like that out there, because it's basically a floating military base. You launch planes from it. You can launch missiles from it. You know, you got the subs that can pop up and launch some very nasty missiles. By the way, I saw an article. Some guy attempted to donate a nuclear bomb to a museum. He was in like, I don't know, Oklahoma or...
That brings up a lot of questions.
Yeah, or maybe I forget exactly where it was, but he was like, hey, my neighbor had this old genuine missile. He's like, I'd like to donate it to this military museum. So they came to check it out. They're like, that's a nuclear bomb. He just had a nuclear bomb in his neighbor's driveway. It's a rust bucket. There's a picture of him standing next to it. It just looks like this rusty... missile. I don't know what else to say it looks like. It's just this rusty piece of junk, but it's a nuclear missile. That was just like chilling in Alabama or whatever this whole time, which would make sense, actually, if it was in Alabama. It's like, I got nuclear missiles. It's like, yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. Okay, so anyway, all that to say, so there's been some strikes, and so, you know, the U.S. has been posturing real big. You know, Biden, who looks weak on lots of stuff, is up for re-election, clearly, unless Michelle jumps in. And so he's got to look tough. Everyone's got to look tough. So, you know, we're striking back. And, of course, because it's the Houthis, we strike back in Yemen because we've been doing a proxy war. The Saudis have been fighting against the Houthis. So it's like Iran has been fighting against America, and we've been using our proxies there. And, like, the actual people of Yemen have been suffering. They've basically been starving to death and dying of disease constantly, as we have a military playground over there, and no one cares. All right. So Iran issued a warning on Sunday to the U.S. over potentially targeting 2 cargo ships in the Mideast, long suspected of serving as forwarding operating bases for Iranian commandos, just after America and the U.K. launched a massive airstrike campaign against Yemen's Houthi rebels. The statement from Iran on Bashad and Sava's ships appears to signal Tehran's growing unease over the U.S. strikes in recent days in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, targeting militias backed by the Islamic Republic. Those attacks themselves a retaliatory campaign for the killing of three U.S. soldiers and wounding of dozens others in Jordan, all stem back to Israel's war of Hamas. So the Yemen strikes overnight Sunday struck across 6 provinces of Yemen held by the Houthi rebels, including the capital. Blah, blah, blah. These attacks will not discourage Yemeni forces and the nation from maintaining their support for the Palestinians in the face of the Zionist occupation and crimes, Houthi military spokesman Brigadier General Yahya Saree said. The aggressors' airstrikes will not go unanswered. So, I mean, the funny thing is, I find about this, and there'll be other language in here, is I think the rest of the world is catching up to us in bullshit language, you know. We never say, we didn't like that guy, we took him out. Oh, he's a terrorist, or we're peacekeeping, so all that stuff. So like that was Russia when they went into Ukraine, they were peacekeeping. I was like, I see what you did there. And so then like later, let me see. Well, I guess we'll get to it, but Lloyd Austin, who cares what he thinks about anything? He said they're going to keep attacking. Jake Sullivan also said they're going to do stuff. Who cares about that guy? So the Bashad and Savas are registered as commercial cargo ships with a Tehran-based company in the U.S. The U.S. Treasury has sanctioned as a front for the state-run Islamic Republic of Iran shipping lines. The Savas, then later the Bashad, have loitered for years in the Red Sea off Yemen, suspected of serving as spy positions for Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard. So these are basically spy ships that have been floating out there for a long time. I was like, these seem like these are spy ships in the Red Sea. And they probably are. In 2017, Saudi Arabia described the Savas as a maritime base and weapons transshipment point for the Guard, staffed by men in military fatigues. Footage aired by a Saudi-owned television channel showed the vessel armed with what appears to be a covered machine gun bolted to the ship's deck. Unless, of course, it's just a blanket over something else and we're just making stuff up. WMD. All right, well, I want to see what Iran's quote in here. Let me see. Okay. They had a good quote in here. Yeah, here it is. Let's see. Just before the new campaign of U.S. airstrikes began, the Bashad traveled south into the Gulf of Aden, is now docked in Djibouti. Sorry, I can't help. There's a store I go to, and if you go out the back door, the chime goes, "Back door open." And I don't know, every time I walk out, I'm just like, back door's open. I'm just not mature enough for this world. Anyway, Djibouti. Just off the coast from a Chinese military base in the country. The statement ends with a warning overlaid with a montage of footage of U.S. warships and an American flag. Those engaging in terrorist activities against Bashad or similar vessels jeopardize international maritime routes, security, and assume global responsibility for potential future international risks. See, that sounds like an American statement, doesn't it? So, any terrorist activities against this Iranian ship or similar ones will jeopardize the international maritime routes. So, just boats trying to do commerce will jeopardize that. And the security. And assume global responsibility for future, basically, responses. Which,
it's your fault you died.
I mean, it's just, it's the same crud we say. And that's the hard thing about it is, like, yeah, I think they are spy ships. Why wouldn't they be? I do think that they have military operations. Why wouldn't they be? I mean, it's Red Sea. It's pretty close to home for them, It's not like we don't have ships currently in the Red Sea that are military, that probably are gathering intelligence as well. So, I mean, like, we don't refer to our ships as spy ships. They're just military vessels offering support and keeping the peace in the area, making sure there's no attacks from the Houthi rebels, making sure there's none of this stuff. But it's like, all right, so we're gathering intelligence and operating in a military capacity. It's like, yeah, It's like, but those ships over there, it's like, what are they doing? It's like, they're gathering intelligence and operating in military capacity, but they're hiding. It's like, all right. And so, of course, we say, any terrorist attacks against our vessels, we'll respond in kind. So Iran goes, yeah, well, any terrorist attack against our vessels, we'll respond. It's your fault. So we're both just sitting there pointing fingers, doing the exact same thing as one another. Anyway, so that's just, that's some stability. So we got that stability going. That's Iranian-backed groups, or whether they're Iranian-backed or not. But, I mean, the drones seem to be made in Iran. They're getting intelligence from Iran. So let's just say the Houthis have Iranian support. I don't think that's crazy. I know there's a habit of blaming all terrorism on Iran and all international strife on Russia or China or something like that. But in this particular instance, I mean, the Houthis, they're supported by Iran. I mean, they are. Like, all of them in the world aren't. The Houthis are. And so, like, it's bubbling up. It's bubbling up where, it seems like people in our government are itching to go to war with Iran. They have been for years. Have we played the Wesley Clark clip of him talking about the plan when George W. Bush was president about going, like when we were talking about invading Iraq and all that? So Wesley Clark, who ran for president, he wanted to run against Bush. He lost in the primary to Kerry, shockingly enough. Like, I really, when Wesley Clark announced, I was like, damn, this guy, that would be a tough one for George W. Bush, who's got, he was popular post 9/11, but it started to dwindle. And all of a sudden you have a general who's a Democrat who's kind of talking about ending war, like talking about peace, but you can't call him like a sissy hippie. He's literally a general, I was surprised at how bad of a campaign he ran. And then kind of stayed away. It was bad enough that he just never tried again. But anyway, he was giving this talk, and he talks about going into, like, after I think he was retired, like officially retired, but he was going in to, like, do something. And so he was hollering at one of his colleagues, former colleagues, and he's like, hey, did you see this? It shows, like, it's like, why the hell are we invading? I think it was Iraq. I don't think it was Afghanistan at the time. I think it was the Iraq invasion. He goes, why the hell are we doing this? He's like, I don't know, man. He's like, that's what we're doing. He's like, apparently it's like the plans to go, like, it's like Afghanistan, Iraq, and then it was basically, I forget, 7 nations. Syria, Libya, any of these sound familiar as places that got toppled. And I forget all of them, but it all would end with Iran. So we'd go through and just topple all, like, the Middle East governments, and then the very end, the prize was toppling Iran.
Because they didn't have central banks at the time.
Who didn't? Iran?
No, all those countries on the list, I don't think they
that's
had central banks at the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it could be. Who knows the motivation besides just dominance, like just conquering it, installing puppet governments, and not having to worry about all this mess in the Middle East. Let's put our puppets in, which has never backfired. I mean, everyone goes, Osama bin Laden wasn't trained by the U.S. Specifically. It's like, well, I mean, he wasn't, but, the Taliban, we kind of created an armed force battling the Soviets that then later organized and attacked us. And then we went to war with for a while. And
with the weapons we gave them.
And then we kind of lost and left them a lot of weapons and cash. The cash is the most incredible thing about those videos, because it's just like you couldn't bring the money with you. Like, I get that we couldn't fly all the tanks back, okay? I get it. That's difficult. But, like, those houses or those buildings where it was, like, cash stacked up, like, knee to hip high, and, like, I don't know how many stacks out it was, like 8 or something, 6 or 8 stacks out. And it's just like, and it circles the whole building. And you look at that and you're just like, and they're $100 bills. And then you're just like, holy shit, like just stacks of $100 bills all around like this. It's like, it looked like in Bad Boys one or two, I forget which one, where they're hiding the money on the boat and the rats are eating. Like, this is a stupid problem. It was like that. Like, it was just like money just oozing out, and we just like leave it. We didn't even set it on fire. Like, if we're concerned about like the Taliban, if we're concerned about these people doing bad stuff, the worst thing to do is leave a bunch of unmarked American bills by the tens of thousands. It might have been more than, I don't know what, I've never looked at $1 million and $100 bills. I don't know what that would look like. But this looked like a lot. I know like this much money in $100 bills is probably a lot. So I imagine this is a whole lot. So I imagine that's even more. And
Like that's probably 100,000.
you think that?
Yeah.
You think that you can fit 1,000 bills in that chunk?
Yeah. Because 10,000 is I don't know.
I don't know. I've never held $10,000. Actually, that's not true. Why did I hold $10,000 one time? But it was surprisingly a small stack. Why did I have $10,000? What was I doing? I think I was buying a car. Why did I have that money? I can't remember what I was doing now. Don't worry about it. It's fine. But yeah, now that you say it that way, that was a lot of money. Maybe some was 20s. Maybe it wasn't all hundreds. Surely it wasn't all hundreds. That'd be so much money. So much money. And like in addition to like leaving all the weapons.
Yeah, because you would want different denominations depending on what you're going to use it for.
Yeah, depending if that whole thing was just to bribe one leader or if you're trying to buy things. Either way, we left probably millions of dollars in addition to definitely millions of dollars in weapons and ammunition and equipment. And like some of the dudes were like breaking the crap out of like helicopters and stuff before they left. But, you know, surely you can find a mechanic that's, you know, favorable to you and fix up the control panels, you know, and fix up whatever was broken because it's still like, you know, yeah, you made it inoperable, but not permanently. Like, if we're going to leave stuff behind, we should at least blow shit up, you know?
Right, because they could part it out from another one and just
Yeah.
make one good one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, they broke it on that one. Well, here we go. I mean, because we left enough. But anyway, so instability is growing in the Middle East. I know we're kind of getting long here, but just one last thing not to worry about. So, you know, money might not be worth anything, but luckily, according to New York Post, Chinese hackers are ready to wreak havoc on critical U.S. infrastructure with 50-to-1 cyber personnel advantage, FBI director warns. China is preparing its legion of hackers to wreak havoc on critical U.S. infrastructure, FBI Director Christopher Wray warned lawmakers on Wednesday. Digital infiltrators working for the People's Republic of China are specifically targeting American water treatment plants, the electrical grid, oil and natural gas pipelines, and transportation systems, according to the FBI director, who noted that the Chinese hackers far outnumber the Bureau's cyber personnel. So, that's good. Let's see. In fact, if you took every single one of the FBI's cyber agents and the intelligence analysts and focused them exclusively on the China threat, China's hackers would still outnumber the FBI cyber personnel by at least 50-to-1. Yeah. And like, let me just see if there's anything else I really need to talk about in here that might have kind of, yeah, malware. They got malware. Okay, who cares? All that's just fluff. But, a source of mine who had recently viewed some FBI guidance on this matter seems to think that there's definitely more that they know that they can't or are not telling us, right? Because, you know, I don't know what the guidance says, but the takeaway is there's probably more to this that is like already not disclosed, probably won't be disclosed. And so my guess is kind of the obvious thing, because people have been talking about the weakness of our grid security for years, you know? So I think China's been in our power grid, in our water, in our pipelines. I think they've been in there for 5, maybe 10 years already. And we don't have anything we can do about it, because we don't know what to do about it. We don't know how far they're in. At this point, like, if you take admin control of a system, right, any system, just a normal server, and no one knows you're there, you can set up other super user accounts, right? And so that's one thing. But maybe an admin one good day goes, look at all these super user accounts. Like, when did these go here? And we need to get rid of them. All right, maybe you can catch that. But maybe you open certain ports that you can then send malware through or different commands through. You can do all sorts of stuff to allow access through various ports, various means for yourself that would be hard to find. The longer you are there, the more stuff you can do, and it would be harder to catch because if no one's checking these things constantly, which I don't think in our power grid and stuff like that people pay attention at all to anything. I mean, they pay attention to power. They regulate how much energy is going to different places and they watch all that. But as far as, I don't know, various cybersecurity things, I think for a long time they've not been concerned. So I think the dirty little secret is that
we just lost you.
Yeah, we sure did.
That's convenient.
It is convenient. Dirty little. All right, well, here, let me just. Oh, it's kicking back on. Okay, great. How did my battery die like that? That's BS. Anyway, I think they've been there for a while. I don't think we know how to get rid of them, and I think that's not great. So anyway, until I guess I'll wrap this up since everything's going screwy. The feds are coming after us, obviously. So until next week, what you got?
It's China.
China. All right, like, subscribe, do all those things. Bye.